Morning students. So in the previous class, I taught you about hypermetropia and presbyopia, and today we will discuss about retinoscopy. The next class I will teach you astigmatism and prisms. So what is refraction? What is refraction of light? Refraction of light is change in the path of light when it travels from one medium to the another medium. But in ophthalmology, refraction is procedure of prescribing glasses. In ophthalmology, the refraction, we call it as refraction when it's a procedure of prescribing glasses. So what are the 5 activities required in diffraction in ophthalmology? First one is first we have to dilate the patient with the help of cycloplegics or mydriatics. Then we have to do objective refraction with the help of retinoscopy. It is a specialized instrument which is used to assess the refractive error of the patient by objective method. Then we have to refine the findings of the retinoscopy, that we call it as a subjective refraction. Then we have to do subjective refraction. We have to refine the measurements of the retinoscopy findings. Then we have to binocularly balance the vision. Binocular balancing is present or not, we have to check. Then we have to prescribe the glasses. So these are the 5 activities in diffraction. So diffraction is the procedure of prescribing glasses. In that we need these 5 activities. First one is we have to dilate the patient with cycloplegics and mydriatics. Then we have to do objective refraction with the help of instrument called retinoscopy. Then we have to refine the findings of the retinoscopy by doing subjective refraction. Then we have to binocularly balance between the 2 eyes, and we have to prescribe the glasses. So these are the 5 activities we have to do in refraction. So what is retinoscopy? Retinoscopy is an objective method of finding out the error of the refraction by the method of neutralization. By the method of neutralization, we objectively find the error of refraction in the patient. So what is the principle behind it? It is based on the fact that when light is reflected from a mirror into the eye, the direction in which the light will travel across the pupil will depend upon the refractive state of the eye. So this is based on the principle that when we focus a light onto the retina through the pupil, the direction in which the light travels across the pupil depend upon the refractive state of the eye. I will discuss in detail about the principle. You will get to know about that. So what are different types of retinoscopes? There are 2 types. They are reflecting mirror retinoscope, that is this plane mirror and Presley Smith mirror, and self-illuminated retinoscope. This is the self-illuminated retinoscope. Here the examples are spot retinoscope and streak retinoscope. In coming to the reflective mirror retinoscope, we use plane mirror or Presley Smith mirror, which contains both plane and concave mirrors. So these are the types of retinoscopes. It may be 2 types, that is self-illuminated and reflecting mirror retinoscope. So what is the advantage of self-illuminated retinoscope? Here the light source and the mirror are incorporated in one. So we don't need any separate light source in case of self-illuminated retinoscope. The best example is streak retinoscope. Here the light source is linear filament. So we have a light which vertical light. So it has both the mirror as well as the light which is incorporated in the one instrument, that we call it as a streak retinoscope. What are the advantages of streak retinoscope? It is a self-illuminated, as it has the light source and mirror is incorporated in one, and it can be easily manipulated, and the intensity and the type of beam can be easily controlled. This is advantage. These are the advantages when compared with the plane mirror or Presley Smith mirror retinoscope, because it has both the light and mirror in one instrument. We can easily manipulate the intensity and type of beam, so that the perform the test is easy when compared with the plane mirror or Presley Smith retinoscope. So this is the advantage of streak retinoscope. So this is the streak retinoscope. Here we have a linear line of light is seen, whereas in case of spot retinoscope we have a spot-like light in case of spot retinoscope. These are the self-illuminated retinoscopes. both streak and spot retinoscopes are the self-illuminated retinoscopes. So before going to the procedure of retinoscope, you have to know the concept of far point. What is far point? It is a point, it is defined as a point in space that is conjugate with the fovea when accommodation is at relaxed state. So that is, it is a point of points in the space that is conjugate with the fovea of the eye when accommodation is at rest. So that is conjugate means it is parallel to the at the level of fovea. In case of metropia, as a parallel rays focus on fovea, the retina is conjugate with the infinity and the far point is at infinity. So in emmetropia, as the parallel rays of light are focused onto the retina, the far point is at infinity. So the retina is conjugate with the infinity. The infinity here is far point and far point is conjugate with the fovea. Whereas in case of hypermetropia, the parallel rays are focused behind the retina and the far point is beyond infinity. So because the rays are focused behind the retina, the far point is, it is a point source that is conjugate with the fovea. So in hypermetropia, the far point is beyond the infinity. So we need plus lens to converge rays. In order to focus the light rays onto the retina, we need plus lens to make conjugate with the fovea, to make infinity conjugate with the fovea. So we need plus lenses in case of hypermetropia. Whereas in case of myopia, the parallel rays are focused in front of the retina. So far point is between infinity and eye. So the far point is between infinity and eye, and we need minus lens to diverge rays, and in order to make infinity conjugate with the fovea. So this is about far point. It is nothing but the points in space that is conjugate with the fovea when accommodation is in emmetropic cases, the far point is at infinity. In case of hypermetropia, the far point is beyond the infinity, and in case of myopia, the far point is in between the infinity and the eye. So we need minus lenses to diverge rays in myopia, and we need plus lenses to converge rays in hypermetropia. This is about the far point. So coming to the optical principle of retinoscopy, it works on Foucault's principle, where the retinoscopy is based on fact that when we reflect light with a mirror into the retina, the direction in which the light will travel across the pupil will depend upon the refractive state of the eye. So it has three stages, that is illumination stage, reflex stage, and projection stage. So in illumination stage, we illuminate the retina through the pupil. With the help of light, we illuminate the retina through the pupil, and in the reflex stage, we observe the reflex of the retina, and in the projection stage, we observe the rays which are the emergent rays which are coming from the reflected part of the retina. So these are the three stages involved in retinoscopy. First one is illumination stage, where we illuminate the retina. Then we observe the red reflex of the retina in reflex stage, and in projection stage we observe the rays emerging rays which are coming from the reflected light from the retina. So these are the three stages in retinoscopy. So what happens in illumination stage, light is directed into the patient eye to illuminate the retina, and in reflex stage an image of the illuminated retina is formed at the patient's far point. So if the patient is emmetrope, the far point is at infinity, and we do not require any lens to make it conjugate with the fovea. Whereas in case of hypermetropia, the far point is beyond the retina. So the far point with the movement is present. Whereas in case of myopia, the far point is in between the infinity and the eye. So we have against movement is seen in far point. So in the reflex stage, basically what we do is we observe the reflex of the retina. And in case of projection stage, so here in this picture you can see, we illuminated the retina, and we observing the light which is traveling across the pupil. Here there is an oblique light is seen. I will discuss in the further slides about this reflex. In the projection stage, what we do is the image is at the far point is located by moving the illumination across the fundus. So in the projection stage, whatever the emerging rays which are coming from the retina, with that emerging rays, we locate the far point by moving the illumination across the fundus and noting the behavior of the luminous reflex seen by the observer in the patient's pupil. So based on the characteristics of the emerging rays coming from the illuminated retina, we assess the refractive state of the patient. So this is about projection stage. Here we observe the emerging light rays coming from the reflected part of the retina. So this is the procedure. We have to, we should sit in front of the patient at the arm length distance. So for suppose the arm length is around 66 centimeters. The patient should be at the arm length distance. As we are at the arm length distance, in order to converge rays and to focus to converge parallel rays, we need plus 1.5 diopters of lens. So we have to put plus 1.5 diopters lens into the trial frame before performing the retinoscopy. So working distance is usually at the arm length distance, that is 66 centimeters. So we should sit at the working distance of 66 centimeters. So in order to converge rays, parallel rays at that distance, we need plus 1.5 diopters. So before performing the test, we have to put plus 1.5 diopters lens into the trial frame. So I will clearly show you the video also. It is little bit confusion is present, but I will clearly explain in the video. I will show you the video also. So here working distance is 66 centimeter. So if the direction of motion of the retinoscope fundus based on the direction of light which is present in the pupil, we assess the refractive state of the patient. Here this is the red reflex from the retina. This is the reflex on the skin or face. This is the whatever the reflex which is present in the pupil, we observe that reflex. Here if there is no movement of the red reflex is present, that indicates myopia of 1 diopters. Here if you see, there is a against motion is seen. Here with the motion, we are moving the light towards the left side, and the reflex in the pupil is also moving on the left side. Here it is a neutral one. In immetropic cases, there is a no reflex movement is seen. That is, we call it as a neutral. It is a with motion. That is, the reflex is moving along with the streak retinoscopy light. That is, the pupillary reflex is also moving on the left side, and the streak retinoscope is also moving on the streak retinoscopic light is also moving on the left side. This we call it as a with motion. Here it is the opposite. That is against motion. The streak retinoscopic light is moving on the left side, and the pupillary reflex, retinal reflex is moving towards the right side. We call it as against reflex. So if the red reflex moves along with the movement of the retinoscopy, it indicates emmetropia or hypermetropia or myopia less than 1 diopters. You remember these 3 points. It may be emmetropia, or hypermetropia or myopia. Sometimes if there is a movement of red reflex along with the movement of the retinoscopic light, then along the movement of the retina, then we call it as a hypermetropia or myopia of less than 1 diopters. If the movement of red reflex against the movement of the retinoscope, that indicates myopia of more than 1 diopters. So if it is against movement, it is the myopia of more than 1 diopters. If it is with the movement, because it may be hypermetropia or myopia of less than 1 diopters. So how will you find the cylindrical axis? In the presence of astigmatism, one axis is neutralized with the spherical lens, and second axis shows the movement of reflex in direction of axis of astigmatism. In both the horizontal meridian and vertical meridian, you have to check the reflex, and in one axis it is corrected by the spherical lens, and the other axis it is corrected by the direction of axis of astigmatism. So this is about finding the cylindrical axis. There are 3 methods are there. First one is with the 2 spheres we can find the cylindrical power, or with the sphere and cylinder we can find the cylindrical power, or with the 2 cylinders also we can find the cylindrical power. There are 3 methods of finding the cylindrical power of the patient. First, with 2 spheres, first we have to neutralize one axis. Here the one axis, that is horizontal meridian is, vertical meridian is neutralized by +2 diopters, and horizontal meridian is neutralized by +3 diopters. Here the astigmatism is difference between the two, that is +1 diopters. As it is a 180 degrees, usually the axis The power acts perpendicular to the axis. So here we get the 90 degrees and the spherical power is plus 2 diopters. This is how you, with the help of two sphericals, we can find the cylindrical axis. So with the sphere and cylinder, first neutralize one axis with the appropriate spherical lens, then neutralize other axis with the cylindrical lens at the appropriate orientation. So what is the end point of retinoscopy? The end point of retinoscopy means it's a point of neutralization of red reflex in which there is no movement is seen. So at the we call it as a endpoint when the reflex is completely neutralized and there is no movement is seen in the pupillary region. That we call it as a endpoint of retinoscopy. What is reversal point? Here the real endpoint of retinoscopy. This is a real endpoint of retinoscopy. If we overcorrect by 0.2 diopters, should cause the reversal of movement. If you move slight forward movement, then it will cause with the movement, and slight backward movement will cause against the movement. Because if you move forward, it leads to divergence of rays, and that leads to hypermetropic refractive power. If you move slight backward, that leads to convergence of rays and focusing of the light in between the retina, in front of the retina, that leads to against the movement. That is myopic conversion of refractive error. So this is a reversal. So earlier I said that we need 5 activities for the refraction. So what are the various cycloplegic drugs we use to dilate the patient? First one is atropine sulfate, 0.5 or 1%, homotropine 1 to 2%, or cyclopentolate or tropicamide. If the patient is less than 5 years, we usually use atropine. If it is between 5 to 20 years, CPent or homotropine. If it is 20 to 40 years, we use tropicamide. If it is greater than 40 years, there is no need of cycloplegic is required. Mydriatic phenylphenidate is sufficient. So these are the various cycloplegic and mydriatic drugs used while doing refraction. So for manual retinoscopy, the correcting factor is working distance. That is, in order to correct the working distance, we have to keep the plus 1.5 diopters lens. So we have to reduce the minus 1.5 diopter lens, and cycloplegic effect will paralyze the ciliary muscle, so that we have to correct by minus 0.5 to 1 diopters. So these corrections are not required in case of automated refractions, whereas in case of manual retinoscopy, the working distance of minus 1.5 diopters should be corrected, and cycloplegic effect of minus 0.5 to minus 1 diopter should be corrected. So now I will show you a video so that you will understand in a better way, because it is a very confused topic. So with the help of video, I think that you will understand better. Are you able to see this slide now? The yellow colored slide. If you are able to see, please respond. Okay. So what is the principle behind the retinoscopy? Basically, it is a objective method of finding out the error of refraction by utilizing the technique of neutralization. So this is the principle of retinoscopy. It may come as a 2 marks question, that if you get a question as retinoscopy, you have to write about the principle first. So basically, it is based on the technique of neutralization. We will find out the refractive error of the patient. So what are the prerequisites for the retinoscopy? So we need a semi-dark room first. Then we need a trial set which contain the different lenses. Then trial frame. This is the trial frame. And distant vision chart. That is the Stinner's chart. and near vision chart. So these are the prerequisites for retinoscopy. And anyway, we have to use retinoscope to find out the refractive error. This is the retinoscope, streak retinoscope, which is self-illuminated. So what are the lens used for working distance correction? If you use plus 1 point, normally our arm length is around 66 centimeters. So if you use arm length, the working distance is arm length, then we have to correct by plus 1.5 diopters. So we have to, initially we will put plus 1.5 diopters before starting the test, so that the parallel rays which are coming at the distance of 66 centimeter will focus onto the retina. So if the working distance is 1 meter, we have to correct the lens by, we have to put the plus 1 diopter. So we have to correct by, we have to, in order to reduce the plus 1 diopters, we have to do minus 1 diopter correction. So whereas in case of 66 centimeters, we have to do minus 1.5 diopters correction. If the working distance is 50 centimeters, we have to correct by minus 2 diopters. If it is 33 centimeters, it is by minus 3 diopters. We have to put the plus lens into the trial frame, and while correcting, we have to reduce the whatever the lens we put in the trial frame. So in case of 66 centimeters, as you put plus 1.5 diopters in the trial frame, we have to reduce the plus 1.5 diopters. So we have to reduce it by minus 1.5 diopters. I hope you understand this concept. The working distance normally we do is 66 centimeters. For that working distance, we have to put plus 1.5 diopters in the trial frame. So finally, we have to reduce this plus 1.5 diopters to give the complete refractive state of the patient. So minus 1.5 diopters should be reduced if the working distance is 66 centimeters. So this is about working distance. So working distance of 66 centimeters, that is 2/3 of the meter, is more convenient. So it is preferred in practice. So characteristics of moving retinal reflex. Here, if it is a low degree of refractive error, that is a mild degree of refractive errors, the red reflex seen is bright and moves rapidly. So we observe the red reflex which is present in the pupillary area. In case of low refractive error, that is if the refractive error is less than -2, something like that, the reflex we observe is bright in color, bright in intensity, and moves rapidly. So you observe this video. In the pupillary area, you can see the reflex. So you can see bright reflex which moves rapidly along with the movement of the retinoscope. Characteristic of moving retinal reflex. In case of high degree of refractive error, that is more than -5, in such cases, the width of the reflex is narrow, and you observe the width of the reflex. So you see a narrow retinal reflex. You can see this is the red reflex which is narrow. When compared with the low degree of refractive errors, the width is little bit wider when compared with the high degree of refractive states. That is, if the power is more than -5 or something like that, the reflex we observe is narrow when compared with the low degree of refractive error. So this is the narrow retinal reflex. So wide retinal reflex, in case of low degree of refractive errors, we can observe the width of the reflex. The width of the reflex is little bit wider in case of low degree of refractive errors. So that is, if the power of the patient is less than -2 or something like that, the width of the reflex is little bit wider when compared with the high degree of refractive states. So this is how you observe the light which is traveling across the pupil in retinoscope. So if you achieve the neutralization point, then the entire pupil is filled with the light, and we don't observe any movement of light in the pupillary area. at the neutralization point, if the patient is immetrope, or if we corrected the myopic correction with the minus lenses, we at one point we reach the neutralization point. At that point, we do not observe any movement of the red reflex, because the entire pupil is filled with the light. So based on the technique of neutralization, we finally get the measurements of the refractive state of the eye. This is the basic principle of retinoscopy. So here you observe, we don't see any movement of the red reflex in the pupil, because the complete pupil is filled with the light. So observe, complete pupillary area is filled with the light, and we do not observe any movement. That is the neutralization point. That is the end point. So here in this, you observe there is a with movement of the reflex is seen. So observe, this is the with movement. So along with the retinoscope light, the pupillary red reflex also moves along with the movement of the retinoscope. So with movement is seen in which cases it is seen? It is seen in hypermetropia, or if the myopia is less than 1 diopter. So this is the with movement. Then observe, this is the with movement. So it is seen in hypermetropia or myopia of less than 1 diopter. So as in the it is hypermetropia, we use convex lenses. So we use convex lens in order to neutralize the reflex. So we put plus lenses, convex lenses, plus lens. So after by putting plus lenses into the trial frame, we neutralize the red reflex. So agonist movement is seen in case of myopia greater than 1 diopter. So this is the agonist movement. The retinoscopic light is moving towards the left side, and the red reflex is moving towards the right side. This is seen in case of myopia of greater than 1 diopter. This is the agonist movement. So it is a myopia, the myopic refractive error. So we correct the refractive error by putting concave lenses, that is minus lenses. So this is a agonist movement. So we put minus lenses. It is concave lenses. So no movement is seen in which conditions? In case of immetropia, or at the point of neutralization, we don't see any movement. This is no movement. That is complete pupil is filled with the light. So red reflex covers complete area of the pupil in the at the end point or neutralization point. So the streak retinoscopy was first invented by Jack Copeland around 1920, who popularized the streak retinoscopic technique. It is first invented by Jack Copeland at around 1920. So this is a streak retinoscope, which is self-illuminated. It contains both the mirror and as well as light source. So what is the procedure here? First thing is, we need a trial frame. We have to put the trial frame onto the patient, in front of the patient's eye. We should make the patient comfortable at a distance of 66 centimeters from the examiner. So you can use the working distance of 1 meter or 50 centimeters also, but the 66 centimeters is more convenient for the examiner. The room should be semi-dark, and the eye level of the both examiner and patient should be of same height. So with the help of distance vision chart, we should ask the patient to look at the first line, that is at the 6 by 60 point. We have to ask the patient to look at the distant point, that is at 660 distance in the vision chart. That the Snell's chart, that E is the point where the 6 by 60 vision is present. That we have to ask the patient to look at the first line, that is E, which is at the 6 by 60 distance level. Now with the help of streak retinoscope, the examiner should observe the red reflex in the pupillary area of the patient. So with the help of retinoscope, we have to observe the red reflex in the pupillary area of the patient. Let's see with the animations. So we have to observe here. If you observe, you please dilate it with the help of cycloplegics and mydriatics. The first step is we have to dilate the patient. Then we have to put the trial frame, and we have to observe the reflex in the pupillary area. First of all, put your working distance of. So as the working distance is 66 centimeter. First, we have to put the plus 1.5 diopters of lens into the trial frame. This is not the refractor error of the patient, but we have to put this lens in order to converge the light rays which are coming at the distance of 66 centimeters to focus onto the retina. We have to initially we have to put this plus 1.5 diopters. So as this is not the refractive error of the patient, in the final correction we have to reduce this plus 1.5 diopters. So we have to in the final measurement we have to reduce the final measurement by minus 1.5 diopters. So this is the working distance. So it is the test is conducted at a distance of 66 centimeters. So we have to put the plus 1.5 diopters before correcting the refractive error of the patient. And finally, in the final measurement, we have to reduce this plus 1.5 diopters. I hope you understand now the working distance. If it is at 66 centimeters, we have to put the plus 1.5 diopters before starting the test. So then the retinoscope is moved in horizontal meridian, keeping a watch on the red reflex. So this is the horizontal meridian, streak retinoscope. If you observe, there is a movement of red reflex in the pupillary area, which is a with the movement. So the movement in the red reflex is movement in the pupillary area is with the movement of the retinoscope. So here the refractive error is either less than minus 1 diopters of myopia or great or hypermetropia. So with the movement is hypermetropia. So we will try to neutralize the red reflex by putting, as it is hypermetropia, we put convex lenses. Here we see the with the movement of the red reflex. So we put convex lenses, that is plus power lenses. So we put plus lenses. We add plus lenses by for suppose if we put plus 2 diopters in this trial frame, we kept the plus 2 diopters in the trial frame, and then here you observe the red reflex. Here if you observe, here also we see the with the movement of the red reflex, but if you observe carefully, there is an increase in the width of the red reflex. So if there is increase in the width of the red reflex, that denotes there is a decrease in the refractive error. So by putting the plus 2 diopters, the refractive power of the patient is reduced. So some degree of refractive error is we corrected some degree of refractive error of the patient. So that's why the width of the red reflex has increased. That denotes we are going to the point of neutralization. We are in the process of achieving the neutralization point. So here there is increase in the width of the pupillary reflex, and there is a with the movement is present. So with the movement is present. So again we have to increase the plus power of the plus power lens. So we replace the plus 2 diopters with the plus 2.5 diopter lens, and we observe the movement of the red reflex. So if we observe, there is a with the movement is present, but there is a still further increase in the width of the red reflex. There is further increase in the width of the red reflex, but there is a with the movement is present. So still with the movement is present, the width of the red reflex is increased. So means we are approaching towards the neutralization point. So as there is still with the movement is present, we have to increase the power of the plus lens. So we replaced the plus 2.5 diopter lens with the plus 3 lens. Then we observe the red reflex in the pupillary area. Even after replacing the plus 3 lens also, there is a so we achieved the end point. So there is a no movement is seen. If you observe, there is a no movement is seen, and the complete pupillary area is filled with the light. So no movement of red reflex indicates the neutralization point of the meridian. So in the horizontal meridian, we achieved the neutralization point. So again, we have to check this is the meridian. So horizontal meridian is neutralized by plus 3 diopters. Again, we have to check the vertical meridian also. as the eye has two principal meridians, vertical and horizontal meridians. First we have to check the horizontal meridian, then the vertical meridian. So after neutralizing this horizontal meridian, we have to neutralize the vertical meridian also. So plus 1.5 diopters, which is our working distance lens, and plus 3 diopters. With the help of this, we neutralize the horizontal meridian. Now rotate the retinoscope sleeve at 180 degrees. So this is the advantage of the streak retinoscope. We can rotate the light source to the whatever the degree we want. So we have to rotate the light source of the streak retinoscope into 180 degrees, and we have to check the vertical meridian. So the light source is rotated at the axis of 180 degrees, and with the help of streak retinoscope, and we have to check the vertical meridian. Now move the retinoscope in the vertical meridian. Keep a watch on the red reflex. So here also we see what we see. Here also we see with the movement. Here we observe the width of the reflex. It is a little bit narrow. So still we have to increase the power of the plus lens. So we are putting cylindrical plus axis. We can put the plus spherical lens also. Here in this video, he is putting plus power cylindrical lens at 180 axis, and you observe the red reflex now. If you observe, there is an increase in the width of the red reflex, and the movement, and we observe the with the movement of the red reflex. So as there is a with the movement, still you have to increase the power of the plus lens. So he is replacing the plus 1 diopter cylindrical lens with the plus 1 diopter cylindrical lens. We can use the spherical lens also. Now again, we observe the red reflex. So here there is further increase in the width of the reflex, but there is a still with the movement is present. So we have to further increase the power of the plus lens. So if you observe with the previous width of the reflex, there is a further increase in the width is seen. So we replace with the plus 2 diopter cylindrical lens. So if you observe the pupillar red reflex now. So here you see the complete filling of light in the pupillary area. So the red reflex is present in the entire pupil. So here this is the end point, the neutralization point. So this is the neutralization point. So no movement of red reflex indicates the neutralization point of this meridian. So we have to check both the horizontal meridian as well as the vertical meridian. So both meridians are neutralized now. This is how you test with the help of retinoscope. So now we have to remove the working distance lens. So we have to remove this lens. So we have to minus 1.5 diopters of power should be corrected from the final power of the patient. So in order to give the final prescription, we have to reduce 1.5 diopters. So we have to remove the working distance. Then we have the trial frame with plus 3 diopter spherical and plus 2 diopter cylindrical power. So this is the refractive power of the refractive error of the patient. So this is how you test with the help of retinoscope. So basically we observe the red reflex in the pupillary area, and we have to observe the movement of the red reflex in the pupillary area. Based on the movement of the red reflex in the pupillary area, we try to put the lenses. If it is with the movement, we put plus lenses. If it is against the movement, we put minus lenses. And we have to further increase the power of the lens until we get a endpoint or neutralization point. The neutralization point is a point where the complete pupil is filled with the light and we do not observe any movement in the pupillary area. Note that cylindrical axis from the trial frame here is 180 axis. So this is how we test with the help of retinoscope. So final prescription is retinoscopy value plus 3 diopters spherical and plus 2 diopters cylinder. So this is the compound hypermetropia. So the patient is having both the astigmatism, that is plus 2 diopters, and spherical power. So this we call it as a compound hypermetropic astigmatism. In the next class, I will teach you about astigmatism. Okay. So I hope you understand better with the help of video. Usually this is the post-graduation question. You don't get the 4 marks question as a retinoscope, but you should know about the basic principle of the retinoscope and what are the uses of the retinoscope and types of retinoscope. You may get as a 2 marks question. So this is about retinoscope. Coming to the different types of lens we use in the ophthalmology, we use convex lens. Convex lens is used in the case of hypermetropic refractive error. So how will you identify the convex lens? Here, the convex lens. This is the double convex. This is the planar convex and the concave convex. So here, if you by how will you identify the convex lens? Here, the center part is thick and the peripheral part is thin. In case of convex lens, and then when we observe with the when we see through the convex lens, there is a magnification of the object is seen, and when it is moved, the object seen through it moves opposite direction of the lens. So if you see the object through the convex lens, there is a magnification is seen, and if we move the lens, there is a movement of object opposite to the movement of the lens is seen in case of convex lens. This is how you identify the convex lens. Here the image formed is real, inverted and magnified. So convex lens is a plus lens, so plus power, and there is a magnification is seen, and the movement is against the. This is different from the retinoscope red reflex. Here we observing the object from the convex lens. Here we see against the movement. But whereas in case of retinoscope, the reflex is with the movement. We correct with the plus lens, that is convex lens. So that we with the movement is uh, with the movement is which is seen in the retinoscope is should be corrected by the convex lens. But here, if you observe the objects through the convex lens, there is a against the movement of the object is seen with the movement of the lens. So the image formed is real, inverted and magnified. How will you identify the concave lens? Here it has a thinner central part and peripheral it is thicker when compared with the thin center part. Here if you observe the object through the concave lens, there is a minification is seen. Minification of the object is seen, and when it is when the object is seen through the concave lens, there is a with the movement with the direction of the lens is seen. So this is how we identify the concave lens. Here the image formed is virtual, erect and diminished. So how will you identify the cylindrical lens? Here the identification is by when we rotate the cylindrical optical axis of the cylindrical lens, the object seen through it gets distorted. So if we see through the cylindrical lens and if we rotate the cylindrical lens, the objects which are seen through it are distorted, and the power is present at the one axis. So it acts in only in one axis. So when we move up and down or sideways, the object will move with the lens or opposite to the lens. If it is a concave cylinder, it is moved with the lens. If it is a convex cylinder, it is moves opposite. Sorry, if it is a convex cylinder, it moves opposite to the lens only in one direction, because in the cylindrical lens the power is only at the power is present at the one axis that is perpendicular to the axis of the cylinder. So this is how you identify the cylindrical lens. So this is about retinoscopy and various types of lens we used in while prescribing glasses, that is convex, concave and cylindrical lenses. I hope you understood this topic. This is a complicated topic. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. About second internals, mostly in this month only we will have the internal. Maybe third week or fourth week we will have. We prepared most of 99% we will have the internal examination in this month only. Theory. Any doubts? Okay, then for tomorrow is the last class of refractive errors. In that way, I will discuss about astigmatism and prisms. As we don't know whether it is objective or questions, mostly objective type will be there. Mostly objective MCQs will be given in the exam. Okay, I'm stopping the session. Regarding portion, mostly entire portion will be whatever topics are covered will be given, or from the don't know. I have to discuss with the HOD sir and I will tell you. Don't know about the portion. I will discuss with the HOD sir and I will tell you. Tomorrow I will tell you.